Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Women's AM. Apologies for the extended break this morning, but we are back now and we are about to continue our discussion on the hijab. So coming back to your sisters, before the break we were talking about this idea of the hijab being an act of worship, and sometimes we kind of move away from that when we're thinking about our intentions and why we're wearing it. So Sister Saima, what's your thoughts on this, this aspect of hijab?
I think there's two reasons why. I want to give them two angles. I think non-Muslims, for a start, will find it very difficult to view a woman wearing the hijab as an act of worship to your Lord. This is mainly because the media promotes Islam as being a system that suppresses and oppresses women, and uses the hijab, the covering of the woman, as a symbol. It's a symbol of that oppression. So that's first and foremost. And I think, mashallah, Khadija did an excellent job by showing that the evidence in the Quran that speaks about the hijab being a commandment from the Lord, and actually in other ayahs there are further ayahs that talk about how the man has to adorn a type of hijab, more mental than physical. Okay. Secondly, I think Muslims are also guilty of not understanding like how Islam has prescribed the hijab as an act of worship. I think that's probably because Muslims themselves see the relationship. They don't, again, I want to go back to this point, they don't know how to view the relationship between the Muslim woman and the Muslim man. They see this as a problematic relationship. And you often see some knowledgeable people describing the woman as a fitna, and, as some kind of like, problem for the man, and this is really, really damaging. I mean, this is so harmful for da'wah, and this is, most importantly, it's not actually true. Again, the ayah I want to give is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described the relationship between men and women in Islam as one of partnership, as one of supporters to one another. I think something that we need to understand is that the woman is not a problem. And it's not that she's should be hidden away from society, Just because we live in a promiscuous society, or where women are seen as like
objectified.
Objectified, yes, exactly. This shouldn't affect Muslims, A Muslim man should view a woman, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, with honor and dignity and respect. It's not about her, oh, she's not covered, so therefore I can treat her like trash now. This is totally incorrect, The other point I want to make is that in a society, however, though, where if the predominant idea is that we are free and our pursuance in life is happiness, whether a woman has got her head covered or not, she will be subject to harm. Because if a man purely views her, doesn't view her as someone that he's supposed to support, protect and honor, if he views her as an object to satisfy his base instinct, whether you're covered or you're not covered, whether you're Muslim or you're not Muslim, you will be subject to harm from that man, because it's to do with the ideas that he's carrying. It's not to do with a piece of cloth. A piece of cloth alone does not offer a woman any type of protection or honor or dignity or security. And we can see this from the statistics that come out from countries that show that attacks on women in Muslim countries, where the majority of people are covered, that you still see that there is attacks on women, and women do not feel safe, because it's to do with the thoughts that are running through a man's mind, not to do with whether women are covered or not. And I think this is something that we really need to see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down this hijab, but it's part of a wider system, which, like I said, views men and women, whether Muslim or not Muslim, views men and women as supporters and protectors of one another. And second of all, the society has to be based upon taqwa, God consciousness.
Absolutely, and it's about implementing all parts of these, the society, for that to be able to work effectively, and for the beauty of hijab to really be recognised. So that's a fantastic point. Jazakallah khair. Of course, this is a live discussion as always, so please do call in with your comments or questions. The number to call is on your screens now, or you can tweet us at Islam Channel, #WAM. I think, this is really interesting. We're kind of talking about the theory, behind the hijab, but to kind of bring it down to a more real level, we see a lot of sisters that are going through this transitionary period of not wearing the hijab to wanting to start wearing it, to actually putting it on their heads and wearing it, and it's actually really difficult, and if you haven't gone through it, you can't really understand how difficult that is. So what advice can we give to sisters that are kind of going through this at the moment?
I think for the sisters who are going through that, who are trying to put on the hijab, or who've just started to put on the hijab, know that, mashallah, you're being rewarded for the fact that you're doing something that you found difficult. Second of all, you're fulfilling a commandment. And third of all, you're elevating your own status by actually taking that choice in a society which promotes otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think one thing for us sisters who already cover or consider ourselves to be practicing is that we need to support those sisters, because a lot of the time you find that sisters are quite judgmental about how the sisters are wearing the hijab, or they nitpick, or sometimes they're just not very encouraging. So sometimes their body languages or the words that they use, it doesn't help the sister in actually wanting to keep the hijab on or to put it on in the first place, because she feels as though these sisters, you know, I don't feel like I'm part of them, so I don't want to be part of them because they're just treating me like this. So we have to say, mashallah, make dua that Allah keeps them steadfast, and to remember the example of the Prophet ﷺ, because the way in which he behaved with others and the way that he spoke to them, he always had this compassion, he always had this mercy towards them.
Absolutely.
And he always left them with the feeling that they are special. And I think we need to embody that as a Muslim community, not just sisters, but as a community. And we're missing that, we're lacking that a lot. So we're quite harsh.
I think that's true. I think sometimes we are very harsh with, you know, with sisters, and there's that side of it where you think, you know, you want for your sister what you want for yourself, and you really want your sister to put on hijab because you know that's what's best for her. So sometimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, you go in a bit kind of gung-ho and you scare them almost, isn't it? And sometimes it can be very, this is the ruling, this is a fard, this is what you have to do. And we don't kind of, I think we're guilty of letting ourselves down because we're not conveying the beauty of hijab. And actually, you know, there are many different kinds of hijabs. We see it culturally from country to country and things like that. But what I want to kind of get to the bottom of now is what variations of hijab are actually acceptable within the Sharia. Sister Saima, I'm going to come to you first.
Okay. Well, basically, I think Khadija did a fantastic job in dissecting the ayah that talks about how to the Muslim woman should dress in public. The khimar, which is the hijab, needs to cover the hair and the neck and drape, you know, over her front, basically. And the jilbab should be something that is described as barrel-shaped, which means that it should not... if you put something in a barrel, the nature of a barrel usually is that it's like kind of round, so you can't really tell what shape something is inside the barrel. Yeah, that's the whole point. It doesn't mean to be poofy or anything like that. It could be like cut to a certain
what about, you know,
thing,
like these kind of, you know, these tutorials that we see on sort of social media and things like that about different hijab styles and things like that. You know, is this permissible, Ayan?
I think first and foremost you need to be able to meet the requirements of what hijab is. Like the sisters have already mentioned, your khimar needs to be has to come over your chest, needs to cover your hair, your ears, your neck, and then after that your jilbab, your outer garment doesn't need to be form-fitting. So it needs to be loose. Your hands need to be covered up to your wrists, and then the jilbab needs to come down to the top of your feet or just past your ankles. I think once you've covered the requirements, then there's a room for manoeuvre. For example, pattern, colour, anything like that. It's fine, essentially, but the thing is that you've got to meet the requirements. And sometimes with the sisters who do these tutorials, mashallah, you know, they want to wear hijab, they want to be able to beautify themselves in hijab, but I think the premise is that they've misunderstood the point of hijab. And I think once you've understood what it is, you find less of these variations that don't adhere to what hijab is.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're kind of primed to think that a lot of our identity, a lot of our self is kind of conveyed through the clothes we wear. You know, obviously in kind of sort of pre-Islamic days, that's certainly an idea that I subscribe to. So you're trying to kind of find your own identity within hijab, and I can relate to that, to be honest. And I think just kind
when
of...
you start wearing hijab and jilbab, literally you do feel that your individuality has been taken away, because now you look like a drone, basically. You just look like a typical Asian or a typical Arab or something like this, I want to give 2 examples if I could, First of all, one example that inspired me was the example of Zainab radiallahu anhu. She requested the other wives that when she died, that her janazah be carried out in the night time, because she didn't want anyone to, because you're wrapped up, isn't it, as when you're buried. She didn't want anyone to distinguish her body. To see it. So even on her deathbed, she wanted to have hayat, Second of all, she's also requested Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enter into the Jannah wearing the veil, being covered. Again, even at the point of entering Jannah, she still wants to adhere to modesty. These are very empowering examples. The next example I want to give is just a personal example that I experienced. I really feel that Muslim women should wear the hijab and jilbab and wear it with pride when you walk down the street, just like football supporters wear their colours. Even if your football team is like not even in the Premier League, hasn't even made it in, you see them supporting their team and wearing their colours with pride. We should adorn the hijab and the jilbab, walk down the streets with pride. I'm going to give you an example. that when male and female Muslims understand that this is our system, this is a system, it's a gift, yeah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create tranquility amongst humans. I'll give you an example of this happening, yeah. When I was in a mosque, yeah, my son lost his shoes on the men's side. I had to go into the men's side and help him find his shoes. When I came out, there was a whole crowd of men waiting to pray dhuhr, yeah. So I felt a bit uncomfortable because they see this one lone woman coming out of the wrong entrance, yeah, coming out the men's entrance. Did they see me as a nuisance? Did they insult me? Did they get annoyed at me? No. Honestly, it was like Musa parting the sea, yeah? They all, without any instruction from me or anyone else, they instantly moved aside and I had a clear pathway for me to walk, yeah? Now, I believe, inshallah, all of those men would have done that whether I was wearing hijab or not, yeah? Because they understood that I am your sister in Islam, or whether I'm not your sister in Islam or not, whether I'm Muslim or not, I have an obligation to honor you, protect you, and respect you. Yeah. And it was beautiful. Another example I can give, if you don't mind, yeah, was in uni. I need to do somebody's phone, yeah, and the only person that I could find at that time was the Amir of the ISOC, who was an excessively strict brother, very, very intimidating. And I thought, of all the people, I have to find him. I needed to borrow his phone. He offered his phone to me. He didn't see me as a nuisance when I asked. He didn't say, oh, you couldn't find a sister or you couldn't speak to a woman, because that's not the mentality that we should have. We have cooperation with each other. We're supposed to help each other, not be frightened of each other. Yeah. He placed his phone on the floor. Yeah. Now, a lot of feminists out there might think, oh my God, how disgusting. Is he repulsed by you or something? No, I thought, wow, you've got super fast thinking and you've got taqwa flowing through you, because you instantly realise that I need to help this sister, but I cannot touch her and violate her by touching her unnecessarily. So he placed the phone on the floor, I used it, he moved away, used it as long as I needed to, and handed it back, yeah? This is examples of how practically men and women work together with cooperation and harmony and tranquility.
I think, but it breeds trust as well. I think that's one of the issues. I think we live in a society where there is so much distrust among people that no one would dare to ask someone, even when you do the smallest favour for someone, just an act of kindness, they're incredibly surprised. It's like, oh, thank you, because no one expects that anymore. Because we live, like you were saying, this individuality.
Absolutely.
You know, that
unfortunately, this is the society that we live in now. Sister Khadija, can I have a take-home message from you about the hijab?
Okay, what I would say is that hijab is just one obligation. It's part of Islam. You have to understand Islam means submission and full submission. And I tell you what, when I started practicing, there was one ayah that really, really scared me, and that was to do with that it's not. I'm going to quote the ayah, which is, it's not for a believer man or woman when Allah and His Messenger has decreed a matter that they should have any option in the decision. And this was the ayah that really sent chills down my spine. I was just like, subhanallah, I know there are days when I don't want to do something, when I don't want to wear hijab, when I don't want to, you know, especially when it's hot and it's summer. These are the ayahs and these are the reminders that will make you understand that, hang on a minute, this is for real. It's
that hear and obey thing, isn't it? That we seem to be a bit detached from now. And Sister Ayan, what's your take-home message about the hijab, please?
I think that with sisters who mostly have the right intention when they're covering, I think is to go back to the sunnah, to go back to the requirements of what hijab is, and try your best to fulfill that, and for other sisters to support them as well, to be gentle with them.
It's that thing of continuing to strive, isn't it, inshallah? So Jazakallah khair, sisters, fantastic discussion about this. Hijab is not a symbol of oppression. Neither does it prevent women from acquiring knowledge or contributing to the betterment of human society. It's merely a woman's assertion that any judgment of her physical person will play no role whatsoever in evaluating her worth. Wearing the hijab is a freedom, but it's more than that. It's an obligatory ruling from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is packed with blessings and benefits. What a great discussion we have had about the hijab, and I always find it beneficial to revisit this topic, and I'm sure we will discuss it many more times, inshallah.